invested in you already. So having said that, welcome Peter on stage.
Hey guys, thank you for coming out. My name is Peter, as Chris mentioned. I'm currently getting into the VC world as a partner at Overkill Ventures, and then we'll be joined by Raitis, who's the designer at Lattelecom. So we'll try to tell you briefly about why and how you should be working with startups. So as Chris already gave a pretty extensive intro, most of my background is on the startup side, a little bit of glimpse in the corporate world, and then Raitis has extensive experience working as a designer at both Lattelecom and also for many other Fortune 500 companies. So, but before we dive in, I want to take a quick step back, and we usually talk about this thing called technology industry as if it was this one very distinct industry, but I think this term really no longer stands true because technology is literally taking over every single industry. So I'd rather think about it as technology economy, where basically it's spreading to all the different industries and to different departments within those companies. And it's clear that technological impact is only growing. Historically, with the industrial revolutions, it usually came down to automating or improving doing some particular tasks. But now, in the more recent years, it's really been about automating and improving very different complex processes. So it's really taking over a whole new scale of business. So, and if we look at tech companies in general, obviously they're just becoming the most valuable companies in the world. So obviously everyone is kind of jumping on this corporate kind of innovation bandwagon. You see innovation among the top priorities for most of the corporates. On the other hand, they also know that they cannot do everything really by themselves, so they're also looking for ways to engage with startups. One stat that kind of shows that is that in Europe, actually 30% of all the money that's floating into startups is actually coming from the corporates. And it all comes at a time where startup funding in general in Europe is really skyrocketing. We can see that in the last 4 years, the growth has been roughly 4x across different regions, both in kind of more emerging markets as the Baltics, but also in the Western Europe. So basically, the reason why there is all this attention and all this money floating into startups is that in most of these kind of already well-developed areas over the past 5 years or so, startups have been really the ones that have really taken the lead and have been the ones getting most value out of the market. So sometimes corporates think, hey, that's because they're just like super brilliant kids with genius ideas, and that's why they are so successful. But on the other hand, if you look at all these kind of new market opportunities, it usually comes down to two basic things. It's about some sort of technology that's become available recently, and it's about some sort of societal trends that happen in the society. So actually, these market opportunities, it's no super crazy rocket science that no one else could take advantage of. Obviously, it still comes down which is going to be the most successful team at doing that, but that's a whole different question. So basically, why startups are the ones that do succeed better than corporates in this age? Obviously, they have some natural advantages. So all the founders in the company, they have really the ownership and personal stake to make this successful. Also, they don't have all the history and legacy of large corporates. They can do whatever they want. No one's gonna say you cannot do that. So that obviously plays in their favor. The same with their size. It's super easy to communicate within the company. You can be faster at rolling out new product versions and so on. On the other hand, though, there are a couple of things that corporates could do much better, and I think that's not as unique to startups, and that's mainly around the mindset and culture of innovation, and also this approach of developing products and services through the technique of experimentation. So basically knowing that whatever you figure out you want to build is not going to be perfect, so you need to go out, test it in the market, see how it works, go back, build the next iteration, and so on. And this is actually what Raitis is going to be talking about in a minute as well, so how Lattelecom really tries to incorporate this more innovative culture and processes to develop new products. But at the end of the day, how you can actually work with startups. So three, actually just two, and the third is kind of not a real way to work with startups, but working like startups. But in terms of working with them, so you can buy different products from them. So an easy way how to add value to your existing services or products is basically incorporating new products that startups are producing to deliver that value. And that sounds super simple, but at the end of the day, you need to keep in mind that, first of all, you need to identify those opportunities. So you need to sort of audit your existing processes and products to see, hey, there's an opportunity that we could take to provide a better service or product to our customers. So you need to be really proactive about identifying these opportunities. Afterwards, what you need to be able to do is really go out and find those companies that can do that. Obviously, you might get lucky and come to the Digital Freedom Festival once a year, meet the startup that's really doing the thing that can help your business, but that's not really a structured process, and that's not usually how things work. So you should be really proactive of how you identify those companies. Second of all, especially for larger corporations, a huge challenge can be the procurement process, because not everyone is used to working with 6-month-old companies with pretty much no history. So you need to keep in mind how you can actually implement those products that you buy from them. And then you need to keep in mind that at the end of the day, startups are all about change. So they might be selling you one product today, and in half a year their product might have changed. So you need to be also able to cope with that. Regarding partnering with startups in general, it's kind of the same process. You also need to look at where some opportunities are in your business, find them, and then you can do a couple of things. You can have kind of more traditional partnerships where basically you have often kind of common case could be that the startup is providing technology, you're providing as a corporate market access, and then you have some sort of revenue share or licensing agreement or things like that. And that works really well, but again, it takes a lot of effort to make it work. The other option is to work through some intermediaries. So in our case, with the fund, Lattelecom is actually our strategic partner. So in a way, we are providing them this opportunity to see many great companies that they could potentially work with and partner up. So that's also an option. And finally, for larger companies, obviously might be relevant to do direct investments and M&A in startups, but that's not the most common thing. So regarding building like startups, that's where I like to welcome Raitis, who's going to tell you more about his experience at Lattelecom with that.
So, hello everybody. Many thanks to Peter for a wonderful introduction into the reasoning behind working with startups and the way how startups are leaving their imprints in the way many industries across the globe are working nowadays. Telco industry is not an exception, and Lattelecom is also one of the companies that is looking for new approaches, how to bring new value to the customers. And one way of doing that is to bring in a bunch of people who are experienced with working with startups, working as startups, working for startups, and looking for help from them, how to establish new approaches, how to validate and build new business ideas and products. That's first of all. And secondly, this wonderful team of people called Corporate Development Department is also helping to share, to spread the learning and experimentation culture across the whole organization through workshops, speeches, and of course, the daily routine of building new ideas and building new products. And among those people, there is so-called rapid prototyping squad, a 9-people team that I'm also part of, where we are building and prototyping new digital products to help businesses to validate the ideas. And so hopefully today I'll succeed in sharing at least a glimpse into the way of working, into the way how we are building things. And what do we actually mean by building like startups? right? First of all, it's pretty much about experimental thinking. It's a way of thinking where everything you build is considered as an experiment to test whether what we think about our end users or about our end customers is actually true. And so we do that by increasing the frequency how we release stuff. And with modern product design and product development techniques and methods and tools, we can release something in a matter of days, how we have proved in many cases. This is needed to actually be sure that the thing that we are building in the shape that we are currently at is actually the right thing that customers value and actually need. So traditionally, we have worked, many teams around the world have been working trying to invest a great deal of effort into guessing what customers want without quite meaningfully involving them in the process. Then they sort of documented their assumptions in detailed specifications, handed in to stakeholders, promising that the thing that we are going to launch after the year is the right thing, only to discover that after a year, only 20 to 30% of this stuff is actually valued and used by the end users. So what we are trying really hard to approach to do in our way of working is to become a bit more flexible. We are trying to involve customers earlier in the process. We are trying to keep our specifications flexible enough so that whenever new information is coming from the customers or from the engineering teams or from the business, we are able to change the course of action. And what it means for product development, we are more iterative, we can change faster, we can change earlier, and for investors that means gradual investment. They can decide what to do after the results of each experiment. Yes, this complicated picture, sorry about that. This is something how our product development process looks like, at least on one slide. Of course, the reality is a bit more complex, but what's happening there is that we are trying to spend a great deal to balance the business requirements, user needs, and technical feasibility at the beginning before we take anything in our system for building. And we are trying really hard to define what's the minimum set of the features of or the stuff that we need to build in order to validate our assumptions before we invest any more resources and time and effort. And when we have done that, we are going further in the process, in the building process. As for the format, how we do that, currently a 2-day practical hands-on workshop has worked pretty well so far, where we sit together in cross-functional team, decide who are going to be the people who will buy the thing that we are building, who are going to be the people who are going to use the thing that we are building. We prioritize the ideas and turn into something tangible on the second day that we can already demonstrate to each other, to other stakeholders, partners, and to end customers and end users to observe the first reactions that feed our decisions later on. So, the remote seems not to be working. Yes, it is. Nice. So, in respect to the products, how many products and engagements are currently in this process? We have, in our 9-people squad, we have sort of plus minus 12 engagements. Of course, not without the help of our partners that we are currently working on. But it's not only about products where this new flexible way of working is valued. Many other colleagues from many departments also are asking us to help out with the way how they can improve the service and processes and other dimensions of the customer service. So, for instance, as one of some examples is a service where a team that was trying to improve the corporate sales and delivery process approached us and helped us and asked us to help them to design Kickstart activities to find out how to improve their process. And what we did, we gathered in the beginning in an experts group. We modeled the situation as it currently is, as the service is going on. Then we organized hands-on workshops with the involved persons, validated the model, then identified the problem areas, opportunities for improvements, and now it's a full-scale project going on currently. Other example, a local, an internal initiative from a team of colleagues that wanted to improve the way how our small to medium-sized business clients actualize their contact information with us. And that's needed for many reasons, so that we can provide them with better offers and other stuff. So this team went again through a 2-day hands-on workshop where they discussed who are going to be the people who will use this process and why. They identify the challenges, the changes that we need to include in the internal process to make this idea come true. How much would it cost? What would be the benefit? And now they are in a prototyping phase where they will build a tangible prototype that they will validate with our business clients to see if they are really willing to do this and how. One of many examples regarding products, an IoT portal. So a couple of months ago, a team from the IoT portal development squad, so to speak, came in and asked to help them to design at least the initial version of the IoT portal. So they came in, they discussed what will be the target audience that will use this, that will buy this, generated ideas, what should be included in, prioritized them, fleshed out a very rough user journey, and then created a prototype that later on was validated on the end users. So, of course, there is no single right way how to involve customers, what to do with the feedback, how to process the feedback. Many companies have different flavors for this process. But what we know for sure, that there's absolutely no reason to wait at the very end when we give out something to the customers and validate our ideas, whether they're working, whether they have any value. What we are aiming to do, we are aiming at releasing something as early as possible, as often as possible, going step by step, deciding whether the thing that we are building at hand has actually value in that particular shape it is. And when we are talking about involving customers, we don't mean just asking what they want. People often don't know what they want. It's our job to discover their hidden needs, right? So we are looking for ways how to involve people in richer ways. There's so much more insights that we can get by observing people do something, observing people use something, or even better, inviting people to create something together with us. So, a lot of cool stuff has been happening in Lattelecom so far. We have raised the awareness about the customer experience. We are getting a bit more confidence about our software development competences. We are becoming more flexible. But of course, there's still a lot of work to do. And first of all, it's about including customers not only episodically, but on a regular basis, methodically. That's something to do with project planning, where we have to plan those activities in advance before the project starts. Consequently, we need to think about the quality standards, how we involve customers, how we process the feedback. And of course, we're always looking for new ways, new skills, new methods, new approaches, how to transform those customer insights into profitable, useful, valuable, or maybe sometimes disruptive innovations. So if you take one thing out of this today, remember that everything you release to your customers is an experiment that either validates or refutes your deliberately or deliberately stated hypothesis. So it's better to make some tests earlier or more often, and to have those learning lessons earlier in the process than have one big epic uncertainty at the very end of the product development process when something is about to launch. So thank you very much for listening.